Good afternoon. Um, Thank you for being here. So we are I'm Verona Colantes Lebale. I'm with the uh, Global Environment Facility as the senior gender specialist, and I'm also convening the group GEF Gender Partnership. I'm joined today by some other gender advocates and gender focal points experts from different organizations, some of them from the GEF Gender Partnership, and the convener of the Women and Gender Caucus, which is gathering the women's organizations and gender advocates here at the GEF Assembly. And we also have an accelerator for change, one of our GEF actors and project beneficiary. So I'll just start and just mention a little bit about why, in the context of the Global Environment Facility, the gender equality or advancing gender equality and incorporating gender perspectives, women's voices, the importance of bringing in women's leadership, providing them access to resources, and also socioeconomic benefits from projects. This is a vital component of all our projects, and it has become a requirement. So this is the framework by which we are now moving towards and advancing. You may have heard that this assembly is, of course, historic because it's in an inclusive GEF assembly. And by that, you could see this is the first assembly, as far as I know, that we have given a dedicated platform for women's voices and for gender advocates' voices. And we're all really very excited to be here and learning from each other, but also sharing stories, because if with gender equality and women's empowerment, we really multiply benefits from environmental projects. And I think we can only be sustainable in our actions and expanding global environment benefits through engaging women, getting the perspectives of both women and men, and women in all their diversities, and engaging communities. So, and that's really the way we're looking towards GEF, the implementation of GEF 8, and also moving forward into looking into GEF 9. So I'm happy to pass on the microphone now to Amelia, and she will introduce herself. She's convening the Women and Gender Caucus at the GEF Assembly, and she's gonna speak about the group and their key messages.
Thank you so much, Verona, and thank you so much, colleagues, for being here. The Women and Gender Caucus at the GEF Assembly is a self-organized coalition of women's networks, organizations, and gender allies coming from the civil society space, united under the GEF's diverse agendas, coming from the biodiversity agenda, from the climate, from the pollution and waste, from all the diverse environmental streams, but with a particular demand that a human rights-based approach should be at the core of the implementation of environmental action. And how can this human rights-based approach could be implemented? Well, we have 5 key messages for that, or 5 key recommendations. First of this set is driving transformation together. That full integration of women's groups across all project phase development, implementation, and evaluation is essential, meaning that women and girls should not be invited only to implement or only to be there for the photo, but that they should be since the beginning in the design of the projects, and to identify even the priorities of these whole policies. The second key demand is streamlining participation for women's groups. This means that the current process, as it is, to access funding for environmental action is excessively complex, time-consuming, and burdened by bureaucracy. And this means that it's an added burden for local and grassroots women. And what we are demanding is that the process should be changed so women can participate directly into into the whole financing landscape. Then the third demand is that the projects or that the initiatives what we're talking about should go beyond short-term impacts, that we need to focus on behavioral outcomes, that we need to change how people behave and how people think. And for that, we need to reshape how financing and resources are allocated to go beyond just piloting, just short-term projects, but that they span on limited duration, prioritizing the achievement or measurement of lasting outcomes. Then the fourth demand is achieving enduring environmental goals. By bringing women and girls fully and in a partnership level, we are ensuring that environmental action could last longer, because if we bring them in the table and in decision making and in the action, we are already having half of the community supporting these actions. And the last demand, and that actually could be like the main demand, is to securing women's rights. Women's knowledge and contributions, especially from indigenous peoples, Afro-descendant and local communities, drive environmental progress. Securing their rights to lands, territories, occupational health and safety, particularly for household workers, is critical for transformative change. We cannot achieve any environmental goal if we do not secure women's rights. Particularly when there's another situation that has been there for many years, for decades, but that has been invisibilized, and this is the need to combat gender-based violence. How is this being addressed within the environmental sector? And this can only be done by ensuring access to information, participation, and justice. I would like to leave it here, just to saying that this group of women, grassroots women organizations that are all over the world and that have come together to this assembly to demand for their rights and to demand to be heard and to demand to be not only in the table, but in the whole process of designing, of implementing, and evaluating. Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. Now we have Mila. Mila, can you please let us share with us how you've been involved in the GEF project, and what is your message for this assembly?
So, good afternoon, everybody. I am Milagros Dulnuan from the Philippines, one of the accelerator of change. So, the dynamic conservation and sustainable use of agrobiodiversity in traditional ecosystem in the Philippines, or the ABD project, and it was funded by the GEF. The project has Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations as its lead implementing agency and Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agriculture Research as its lead coordinating agency. The ABD project is among the projects that help women through the provision of livelihood assistance, such as trainings, farm tools, and small tools to augment their income. More importantly, it supported the beneficiaries to gain knowledge on how to conserve traditional crops and practices which contribute to the protection of the environment. The GEF project played a significant role in our life, especially to the women and IP and the youth in the Philippines. These are as follows: strengthening of women group through various trainings and seminars or capability building activities, enhancement of enterprise skills to enable women to earn more profits from their agrobiodiversity products, capability buildings to enhance the traditional farming practices, enhancement of establishment of community seed bank to preserve and conserve the different varieties of traditional rice, hence preserving and conserving the heritage, the culture, and traditions. Provision of farm tools or equipment to help ease farm works. Provision of small tools for the processing of agrobiodiversity activities to compete in a wider market. Various formation of enterprise development. And most of all, the knowledge transferred to women in order to be empowered, to be a voice and an inspiration in the community, to be a leader and an asset in the community is the one key initiative of the project. As we adapt to the challenges of life in these modern times, we hope that more women are given opportunities to upgrade their traditional farming activities and enterprise. We look forward to more opportunities for partnership in helping women to protect traditional crops through the provision of a processing facility to sustain the continuity of our livelihood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mila. That was very specific and really a very inspiring example. I think I'm going to pass on to Maud. Maud is actually from the Food and Agriculture Organization. So maybe Maud, you can speak a little bit about how you want to take this forward, in particular, given what Mila has just said.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. So, good afternoon. I'm Maud Verrepico, and I'm actually a Natural Resources Officer in the Food and Agriculture Organization, covering a different region, Africa and the Near East. As a GEF agency, FAO is supporting, therefore, countries to both develop and to implement their environment and climate priorities, their projects and programs co-financed by the GEF. And maybe just a little bit of background to FAO's mandate as such. FAO, as an organization, seeks to support the 2030 agenda through the transformation of agri-food systems so that they deliver more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, more sustainable agri-food systems with 4 outcomes closely at heart, which are 4 betters: better nutrition, better production, a better environment, and better life, and this leaving no one behind. So this organization-wide objective also permeates in our FAO GEF portfolio of projects, as you could also hear from Mila's several objectives of the project and their engagement in those. Our projects will deploy, therefore, different shapes and forms of sustainable food and agriculture approaches, such as climate-smart agriculture, sustainable fisheries, sustainable forest and land management, ecosystem restoration, agroecology, and so on. So the guiding principles of our GEF work, FAO GEF work, really is to deliver integrated, transformational, and people-centered projects and programs that keeps at pair with the integrated challenges that we are facing, that transforms the systems that have been causing the environmental and climate problems that we are facing in the first place, and in doing so, putting people really at the center. So yes, people are at the center of our environment projects, people and the planet together. So we do work with and for women and girls, boys and men, because we cannot end hunger and malnutrition, transform food systems, and take environmental action without the full and the active participation of women. Yet, gendered barriers prevent women and girls from fully participating, contributing to their full potential. So just months ago, allow me to mention this, FAO launched a report on the status of women in agri-food systems, which provides yet again stark evidence of discriminatory social norms and limited access to knowledge, assets, resources, and social networks in agri-food systems that really perpetuate the glaring gender gap. So these barriers, they impact not only women's well-being and agency, but also they negatively impact the whole agri-food systems, its productivity, the health and the nutrition of our children, the health of the planet. So we also know that investing in women, empowering women, generates higher benefits than the investments that only focus on gender mainstreaming. Yet only 6% of the agri and rural development bilateral investments sees gender as a fundamental element. So it is therefore to really break with this status quo that in addition to the incredible gender mainstreaming work that we have already been doing as a GEF partnership, we will also further engage in gender-specific investments that really help shift the needle and accelerate change. So these investments are in addition to gender mainstreaming and existing investments at the project and program level, which can also be quite gender transformative, as examples have been given. And the investments, maybe there will be some more questions about it, but we'll focus in the first moments, global normative investments will focus one on land tenure and equal access to land, which really lays at the basis of land degradation neutrality, but not only, actually helps deliver countries their commitments under all of the MEAs. And then there's a second global gender-focused project that FAO, together with the GEF Secretariat and partners, would like to implement, that supports countries to deliver their commitments under the different Rio Conventions through the adoption of gender transformative environment and climate action. So pass it on to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Maud. Now I pass it on to you, Helio, to speak about what FUMBIO is doing.
Thank you very much, Verona. Thank you all for being here with us this afternoon. I'm Helio Hara from the Brazilian Biodiversity Fund. With FUMBIO, which is the Brazilian Biodiversity Fund, has been working for about 26 years in Brazil, in all Brazilian biomes. And just to give you a picture of Brazil, which might sound as a remote, distant area for some of you, it's a population. It has a population of about 200 million people, of which more than 100 million are women. So we're speaking of a population, women's population, which is it represents more than the entire population of Germany, for example. In spite of this massive number, we still see many inequalities. For example, only 50% of the Brazilian politicians are women. Only 10 of the 26 ministers are women. So obviously this imbalance is reflected in conservation too. And what I'd like to share with you about the GEF Gender Partnership is that I think its work has been of incredible value. In the last few years, what we see is in GEF-supported projects in Brazil, there are many initiatives related to gender, and there's a lot of segregated data being generated. And also there are many spontaneous initiatives, which is, it goes beyond the, you must do that, you know, it's not a burden anymore. And it's interesting to speak with project managers and to understand why they're doing that and what value they see there. And also with the accelerators, because that's something we have been doing, documenting stories, because communication is very important. We have understood that many of these women, they weren't even aware of the possibilities. They didn't understand what they are doing is work. It has a value. It can generate income, and they were not recognized as professionals. So when we speak with them, we understand that promoting such activities, which are stimulated by the GEF Gender Partnership, does have an impact on projects. And last thing I'd like to say is our mission is to provide Fumbio's mission to provide strategic resources for the conservation of biodiversity, and so we do believe knowledge is a key resource. We're not only speaking of financial resources, but knowledge. So when we speak of gender issues, knowledge is key. And I think not only the guidelines, but also all the information that has been produced by the GEF Gender Partnership is very useful, and we're very glad to be here and to know that Verona and the GEF, they have many plans for the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So we're ready to accept questions, respond to some of your questions.
Hello, I'm Spurti. I'm a journalist from the Earth Journalism Network, and I'm also a freelancer. I was interested to know all of you, articulated how important the role of women is in terms of our food production and just generally saving the environment. So, what specific demands or expectations do you have from the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund? And are you also expecting some kind of direct access to women's organization in terms of funding?
Do you want to answer?
Just
yeah.
the first.
The first part? Okay.
Yeah, like we have two particular demands in this case. One is that women-led initiatives and gender-responsive initiatives should be prioritized. As you said, like ensuring direct access is key, and to ensure direct access, there are many things that should be cleared before. No, like it's about easing the criteria for women's grassroots to be able to receive funds. I'm coming from Mexico, I'm speaking from that context, and is that for you to access to have a bank account, you have to prove that you live somewhere. But many of our colleagues or our women's colleagues, they don't have a title or they don't have a proof of residence. So there are some criteria that should be eased. And it's not just us saying, yes, give direct access to women. It's a lot of other activities that should be also taken into account for them to be able to access to these funds. And that's why one of our demands is to ensure women's land tenure, because we need women have to be able to prove that they live somewhere. They have to be able to access to all of these programs. And apart from prioritizing women-led initiatives, we are also pushing for that all of the initiatives that are going to be funded should have a gender lens integrated since the beginning, and has to be in its core, and they should be clear and conscious about if they are increasing inequalities or they are transforming them. So it's apart from giving direct access, all of the initiatives should be gender transformative, should be aiming uh, to give women and girls a better reality, a better life. Thank you.
I just want to add and expound on what Amelia has mentioned and on your question. The Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, as you may know, and Amelia didn't mention it, but when the Global Biodiversity Framework was being negotiated, the women's groups were already really actively involved in, the developing the targets and all that. And as you know, parties have also been supportive of gender responsive global biodiversity framework. And if you're familiar with the targets, there are actually two which are gender specific, and one is really, we call it the gender target 23, which speaks of gender responsive implementation of the global biodiversity framework. So I don't think we cannot get clearer than that. So that's really the mandate. And also, if you've been following, the policy, the Global Biodiversity Framework policy directions and programming directions, again, there, it's specifically mentioned that the Global Biodiversity Fund is going to be gender responsive or support the gender responsive implementation of projects. So there's really that opening. So I'm kind of very excited, and of course that's a big announcement here, right? And we'll see when it comes to funding and we start the implementation. But very positive about it because the mandate is there, the words are there. So we'll have all of these implementers to see through it that when it comes to implementation, we really make sure that it's gender responsive. Thank you.
Hi, this is really tall for me. My name is Pia Arnetta. I'm from Toronto and also with the Internews Network. I was wondering if you or any of you could speak a little bit about the intersection of caregiver roles and environmental responsibilities. Perhaps caregiving does limit time and energy available for participation on environmental initiatives. But the role itself positions women with unique perspectives on conservation efforts. So I was just wondering, what are some ways you hope to engage women and highlight these perspectives with your initiatives and projects?
Maybe do you want to start? Yeah.
Maybe I can give some elements specific to this question. So FAO, as a UN system agency, of course, has a gender strategy and action plan, and there are 4 objectives in that strategy and action plan. The one that talks about the full participation of women in decision making, the access to resources, finance, and so on, and also one on the equal contribution, the equal participation in benefits that come from investments. And then there is one specific objective also on the time poverty that women oftentimes have because they're overburdened with different tasks. So you did mention already in your question that women have an important role to play in the management of the forests, the water, the agro-biodiversity. And that is because not only they are providing the food, the energy, the water for their households and communities, but also because they are farmers, because they are fisher folk, because they are foresters. So they have a double role to play, but that comes at a cost. So the way how we deal with this in a project specifically, this time poverty, is to sometimes work with women separately and exclusively from men. For instance, an approach that we use quite oftentimes when working with farmers is farmer field schools, which is a truly gender transformative approach to transform food systems, to transform practices on the ground, and so on. We would very oftentimes in the same community have a farmer field school for women and then one for men separately, where there is childcare foreseen during the school for the women so that they have the time to meaningfully participate. And that is, of course, you will say, as a beneficiary of an activity that is provided by the project. But the same will apply also for the meaningful participation of women and women's associations in project decision-making or community decision-making. So that is factored in two ways. One, we will try to manage that time scarcity, that time poverty, and on the other hand, we'll also try to benefit from that tremendous expertise, the tremendous knowledge that women have to bring, and that women hold for the management and the use of our natural resource base.
Do you have anything else to add? The other speakers?
Not in this one.
Not in this one? Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have a specific question to Milagros Dulnuan. What's the most critical gender gap that presents barriers to sustainable ecosystem management, especially women in the Cordillera region in the Philippines or indigenous peoples as well? What's the most critical gender gap that presents barriers to sustainable ecosystem management in your community, especially most of the women there and men as well are indigenous peoples?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think in our community, because we have norms, so when you are a woman or a lady, you are there at the bottom. When it comes to decision making, men are more powerful, but because of the women empowerment, we are also involved in the decision making, like in the MDC, or we call it Municipal Development Council, because I am one of them representing the women organization. So I am involved in the decision making, in the improvement or in the development of our community. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Imelda Abanyo from the Philippines, by the way, and from Earth Tourism Network. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So any I know you have you have made the demands. I think we're all in different events, right? But we're going back to the plenary. At least there will be some messages that we want to bring to the bring back to the actual formal meetings. So I guess my question for each one of us is like, if you have one message that you want to bring to the assembly, because this is the assembly, and to advance gender equality and women's empowerment, women's rights, what would that one message be for the assembly, for the GEF assembly in general, knowing that this is a partnership. So this is not just for the GEF Secretariat, but for the assembly with all the partnership, the entire partnership. We start with you, Ilio.
Thank you, Verona. Well, I think the first thing is make it a priority. I mean, we know that we have so many priorities, but one cannot have that many priorities. A priority means you have to think of it as a very important thing. So make it a priority. Make it a priority would be my first thing to say. And secondly, I think do document stories and share stories, because what we have seen is that, as I said before, many people, many women do not imagine themselves as leaders or as participants. And when they see other women doing that, they say it's possible. They see themselves reflected there. So do document, make podcasts, videos, photographs, whatever possible, and share it. Thank you.
I will have two priorities. No, just one. And maybe to say that the key message for that I would like the assembly to think about is that women's rights are not negotiable. That women's rights are there, like there is the commitment and the obligation from the countries to fulfill those rights. So it's not that we are here negotiating if they should, which one it's easier to fulfill, A, B, or C. No, it's like all of us, we have a commitment. Mostly the governments are duty bearers, also the private sector. Like there is an obligation to guarantee women's rights. And I have a second priority, sorry, is that gender should not be an optional element on a checklist. Like gender should be a compulsory element of the designing, of the implementation, and the monitoring.
Thank you. So I'm just going to pick up on your last point, because what I wanted to say is my wish and my message to the partnership and to the GEF Assembly is to look at advancing gender equality and women's empowerment as not as a burden, but in fact as something that will enhance environmental actions, that will enhance the achievement of environmental benefits. These are things that are already being done by women on the ground, by community leaders, even by men. Men are advancing gender equality on the ground. We don't need to look at it as, oh, it's taking away from us. It's taking the benefits away from men. But to really look at it as this can only enhance the achievement and sustainability of global environmental benefits. So I think that's my message.
My wish to the GEF Assembly is more special project to be given by particularly to the women groups, and to sustain their livelihood projects by a provision of a processing facility. That's all. Thank you.
Very sure.
Thank you very much for this question. It is indeed a fundamental human rights issue that we have been failing to deliver on. So it is absolutely priority that needs to be addressed. As you said, I mean, non-negotiable. But I am optimistic because we have already come quite a long way. The strategies, the plans, the policies that are guiding our work, not only the work as agencies, as secretariats, but the works, the projects and the programs that we deliver and that we support countries to deliver, they have really evolved a lot from projects and programs that at the very best do no harm, to projects that really try to do good, to shift, to be more gender transformative. So I am optimistic that we have already come a long way and that we will continue doing better because of the fact that we are a partnership and that we are exchanging lessons, that we learn from each other, that we build on the successes of one another. But that also would need to come, and that would be my request as a GEF agency. So it's a little bit technical, is to better measure how exactly we do better. And that would probably call for more robust ways to measure successes. So that would be my request to reconsider our global environment benefits and to really include this social inclusion agenda in those global environment benefits, in that framework that we as a global partnership report on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.